Okay, we're coming up to the border. Here we go. Hi guys, I'm Richard and this is Overtino, and today we're going to be travelling to the DMZ, or the Demilitarised Zone, at the North Korean border. Since this is the beginning of the journey, we're going to be starting in Manchester, where we're going to travel across to Seoul in South Korea, and from there we're going to take the journey up to the border. We're just getting ready to set off on our way to Seoul from Manchester. And then we're going to check out the DMZ, the Demilitarised Zone at the North Korean border. So let's get going. We had an absolute nightmare at the airport in Manchester. The flights had been cancelled to Dubai because of the flooding that's going on there. So we ended up getting a train all the way to London, and then we flew from Heathrow. But we have finally made it to Seoul. So we're going to take this limousine coach to the hotel, freshen up a bit and get some food before we head to the DMZ in the morning. We've got a little bit of time tonight, so we've come out to try some of the street food near the hotel. I've got these tempura prawns, and Jade just tried some spiraled potato thing that was pretty tasty. I had a bite of that. They've got so much food to choose from here, and it's all so cheap and affordable, like the equivalent of about £1 or £2. Fried cheesy eggy bread.
Good?
Not bad for £1 dish. Tempted. What have you got?
Topping cream. No, topping with some cream.
Go for it, yeah.
Let's go back.
Cheese ball taste test. Any good?
Potato.
Potato?
It's fine though.
Now that we've filled up on all the street food, we're going to check out a few of the shops on the way back to the hotel. And we need to get an early night because we are up early for the DMZ tour in the morning. Today's the day. We're finally on our way to the DMZ after a really long trip from Manchester yesterday and an early start today. It's just about 6 o'clock in the morning here. We've got on our minibus, which is going to take us to the first stop of the DMZ tour. There's a few stops on the way, so we're going to see just how close we can get to the actual border itself into North Korea. They take this very seriously, as if you're actually crossing into a new country. You have to take your passport and get it checked, and that's for the entire minibus or coach that you're on. So if there's one person where there's an issue with the passport, they turn away the entire group. So fingers crossed we will get in without any issues. Also, they only allow a certain number of people into the DMZ each day. So that's why we've set off early, to make sure we're giving ourselves the best chance to get in there. Our tour guide has just collected everyone's passports to be checked as we're just about to arrive at the first stop. Our first stop is Imjingak, which is the first point that you get to on the edge of the DMZ. This is where they will check everybody's passports and make sure we're okay to progress further into the DMZ. Considering that we're approaching one of the most dangerous borders in the world, this place is surprisingly peaceful, and it was made not just for tourists but also for South Koreans, so they can visit the border safely and feel close to their families that are unfortunately still stuck in North Korea. As we say goodbye to our minibus for now, we're going to take this opportunity to get a bit of food while we wait for all of the passport checks to take place. Now, there's quite a few places to choose from for food here, but we're going to go for a very traditional South Korean dish. A margarita pizza. Obviously, I'm joking. There isn't a whole lot to choose from here. There are a few places, but it's mainly burgers or pizza or that sort of thing. But it's good enough for us to refuel after not having a great breakfast as we were up so early. But now let's get on with exploring. Our guide is still going through checks with the passport, so we're having a bit of a look around ourselves until he can explain everything. As you can see, the coaches are already piling up outside, so we need to try and get on the earliest one of these possible. We've just been trying to spy out North Korea, but we can't quite see it yet. It is across this bridge and over the hills, but we'll get a bit closer and get some better footage for you. Okay, the first passport check is complete. Our guide is back and he's explaining a few of the monuments to us in this area. On these stones are a few iconic places in North Korea, and this is one of the areas that I mentioned previously where South Korean families will come to think of their families that are still in North Korea. It does feel surprisingly peaceful. I mean, there are a decent amount of tourists, but still it's not what I expected the feel to be near such a dangerous border. Maybe it'll get more intense the closer that we get. It's slightly difficult at this point to know which parts of this are totally legit and which are just here for the tourists to see. So you can see those letterboxes that were there. It's unclear if that is just a gimmick. And then we've got this bridge, which is supposedly the bridge across to North Korea, but that isn't actually North Korea on the other side. This bridge has been reconstructed. And at the moment, we're still a few hundred meters away. So this is just to tell the story, really. Here is an old military train, which is actually quite fascinating to see up close. Of course, this line is no longer in use, but they have built a newer station which they hope to connect to North Korea at some point if they rekindle. We checked out the post boxes close up, but to be honest, this still wasn't totally clear to me, with the language barrier especially. There are two bronze statues of young women, and I believe this is to commemorate women from the war, to acknowledge what they went through as well as the men. And they're not just here, I believe they're around Korea and I believe in Japan as well. We're checking out the rest of the site that is a little bit less touristy while the rest of the group get ready to set off. So in these areas there's a lot more monuments to see, and there's also the opportunity to exchange into North Korean currency, which is quite strange. But again, this kind of just feels like a gimmick. You're not just exchanging into their currency, you're actually buying it almost laminated, so it just feels a little bit like it's just there for the tourists. And due to the language barrier, it would have been quite easy to miss a lot of this stuff. It's not massively well communicated. So we took a walk ourselves, and we even came across this nice park that has a lake and a cafe in the middle. And these are the sort of areas where I imagine the South Korean families come to have somewhere that's peaceful and also close to the family in the north. We need to get back to the coach pretty soon, but we can't help but explore this area a little bit more. We've seen these statues coming out of the ground. I'll be honest, I have no idea what it represents, but it's kind of cool. And yeah, it's been a nice little area. I'm glad we came and explored this. But we better get to the coach because we're about to go to the next area. So now that we've been given clearance, this larger coach is going to take us pretty close to the border. We're going to what is known as the third tunnel, which is in the green building that you can see on this aerial shot. For reference here, the side that is populated by trees is South Korea, and as we zoom out you can see the more sandy sort of side. That is North Korea, so we are mega close at this point, probably 100 meters or so away, but we're going to get a little bit closer as we go into the tunnel. So just to quickly explain what the third tunnel is, the South Koreans have found a series of tunnels from North Korea since the 70s and even into the 90s, where North Korea have burrowed underground to try and attack the South. And this third tunnel is one of the most famous, and you get a chance to go into it. So we're going to go down a tunnel that South Korea have made to allow access to it, and then into the actual tunnel that North Korea have built. You're not allowed to take any photos or videos inside this place, so I've mocked up some images that I think represent it pretty well. And the first of these is the tunnel that South Korea have built, where you descend down towards the North Korean tunnel. Now this one is like something off a spaceship, and on the way down you don't realise how steep this is. It's only on the way back out where you really realise like how deep you've gone. So we are now about 360 meters deep, and we are entering the North Korean tunnel, and you can just see the difference straight away here. It just feels like a dark cave, and the height of this, I'm 6'4", and this place must have been maximum 5.5 feet. I was crouched all the way down it. They've added this scaffolding support, which I don't know if that's reassuring or not, but we've gone another 300 meters as far as we can into this tunnel, where you're finally met by a concrete blockade that the South Koreans have put in place. And we are now just meters away from North Korea on the other side of this concrete, which is kind of crazy when you're down there. You can see through to the other side through the little window, and there's also a screen that they've got down there that's got a live video feed of the other side that they can keep an eye on. You might have noticed the yellow circles that are sprayed on the side of the tunnel, and this is because when the South Koreans found the tunnel, the North Koreans were in there and they claimed that they were just mining coal. So they painted bits of black coal on the sides and the ceiling of the tunnel, which the South Koreans have now spray painted around in yellow to signify that it's just black paint. Despite its size, they estimate that the North Koreans could get tens of thousands of soldiers through this tunnel in a short space of time. So I think it's time we get out of here and move on to the next one. And our next stop is just around the corner, which is the Dora observatory. And from here, we can see straight into North Korea. So we're going to see the cities that are in there, and we're going to try and spot some people as well. So we are now looking out into North Korea, and on the horizon, we can see the city of Kaesong, which is a real city, and it was once part of South Korea. And I believe it was actually the capital of the entire of Korea when it was unified. And then as we pan over to the right-hand side, you will see a village that is a little bit closer that has a big blue flagpole with the North Korean flag on top. And this is supposedly a propaganda village that is set up to try and entice South Koreans into North Korea. Now, we can't hear any propaganda music today, but apparently they do play it across the border. It's really difficult to capture because it's so far away, but through the telescopes, we saw the statue of Kim Il-sung, the former leader of North Korea. And then we could also see people in the fields that looked like they were working. You might just about see them on this picture. They appeared to be wearing a blue uniform while carrying out manual labour in the fields, and it's just something that's crazy to see that's right in front of your eyes. We're now leaving the observatory, but we still have a couple of stops left on the DMZ tour. So let's see what else they've got in store for us. Apparently one of the must-do things on this tour is to try some ice cream, which I'm going to be happy to do. So let's give it a go. The cafe had Taylor Swift playing, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover instead so I don't get a copyright strike or anything like that. But basically my assessment of it was it tasted like coffee, which I don't really love. But I tried it, and I think Jade enjoyed it at least. And it gave me an excuse to wash away the taste with this South Korean beer that I tried that was pretty nice. And we are back on the minibus to go to the final stop of the tour, and it's a good one. We've come to see a suspension bridge, and there's a short walk through this park with some interesting statues of animals, if that's the right word to use. We're both pretty tired by this point, but it was well worth the walk up the hill. And we've made it to the suspension bridge. Continuing on from here, we're going to see a small waterfall where we're going to have a bit of a rest before we head back onto the minibus and back towards Seoul. As we make our way back towards Seoul and back to the hotel, the tour might be over, but the video isn't and the day isn't, because we're going to go out and we're going to get some more food and explore Seoul. And this is a small but cool thing that I noticed on the way back. When you're crossing the road, they have the lights actually on the pavement showing you whether it's safe to cross or not, which, well, I don't know if you guys will find that interesting or boring. You'll have to let me know in the comments, but I thought it was just one of a lot of cool things that we saw in Korea that just surprised me, to be honest, how advanced they are. We've caught a glimpse of Seoul Tower from the hotel, and we're going to head out for food, but this time we're not going to be having street food. We're going to sit down and enjoy a nice cold beer and some food. Cheers. While we were eating, a couple of American guys sat on the table next to us, and we got talking to them, and they actually gave us some great tips for the next day in Seoul, so that worked out really well. And considering the start that we had in Manchester Airport only yesterday, It's just been an amazing day trip to the DMZ, and can't wait to see what we get up to tomorrow in Seoul. But for now, we're going to take a trip back across my favourite crossing and get some rest in the hotel. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment down below. If you want to keep up with the rest of the series, make sure you subscribe, and you should be able to watch one or two of the videos somewhere on the screen here, or maybe over here. And until then, see you next time.